It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, and that's Dr. Pali Jobolehohla. And we're very grateful to Pali for squeezing us in today because he's going to be flying out soon. He's just said to me, please don't read the full bio for him. But all I can say is that in his days of leisure, now that he's not Statistician-General,
you get older.
That he is a professor of practice at University of Johannesburg. Interesting to read. And I'm sure that if you read the bio about Pali, you can see that we're really honored to have him to speak to us today. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Yoko. There was a lot of trouble trying to get us here together, and fortunately we finally managed to make it, and I had the pleasure of being driven by the Professor Deba here, which was quite nice to have myself driven by you from Pretoria to here. And I had another driver from here to a meeting that I had, but now I think I'm getting demoted. I'll be on Uber from here to the airport. That's unfortunate. So thank you very much for inviting me, and I try to keep myself busy. One of the things that I do is to have a chicken run with about 22 chickens. They have a particular behavior that is very interesting, and I've admired that. And I hope in time there will be statisticians who study behavior of chickens. And you will realize that you can actually learn about human behavior all the time. I have 4 cocks in the run, in the 22, and this particular cock that appropriates everything to itself and doesn't allow any other cock to act in that space. It's a very interesting kind of situation, how they express their power. And I was thinking about this power. What is the power between politics and statistics? Who is the cock and who is the hen in the relationship? And who are the chickens? So instead of, in terms of talking about statistics, I really would like to talk about this tenuous relationship and end up by asking the question whether these products of intellectual effort are used in government. Now, so how do I move? I have my slides, but I don't know how to move them. Oh, this. Oh, I was there. I see. Okay. Well, if it's this one, then that's fine. I can. Yes. I thought. No, why doesn't this move? Don't ignore that one. I should. Just look at this one. Oh, no. Now that's a very difficult situation. And the team here of my employers, Ashwell, who is my boss at StatSA, know a lot about some of the slides that I'll be presenting here. And I used to present to them about Professor Spina. And Spina talks about forms of knowledge, cognition. And here, in the system of knowledge, we've got this information, knowledge, and belief. And all these interact in very interesting ways in life. But the knowledge that we are talking about here as statisticians is this one, which is qualified, which is, there's criteria bound. And the information results from progress of knowledge. And that makes for information technology. And understanding that in relation to information in a form of a semantic or this type of information, which is belief system, are things that vex. That vex our system of evidence. I mean, we say evidence-based decision making, as though the evidence is so objective. It has a lot of these belief systems driving it, and we have to understand that these things do happen. Now, why, when I'm doing this, it is not doing what it is supposed to do? It's a PowerPoint. Or you want me to run on the PDF? Okay. I can do anything you want me to do.
Okay, wait, I think point it that way.
Oh. It moved at least one slide up. Oh.
Okay, yeah, use the mouse.
Okay. The technology is interesting.
Let me help you.
No. I drive my. Now, you see, we've spoken about what we are involved in, which is a knowledge-based, and the knowledge society, as we describe it, is one that is well informed. And in a complete knowledge society, knowledge is available everywhere to everyone simultaneously, and it's free. That's the most important thing. It's the commons. But we also have something called the tragedy of the commons. Because when it belongs to the commons, nobody keeps it going, because the incentive to do so is difficult. And in particular, it's shaped by what the system of incentives are in society. And as a capitalist society, that system of incentives actually is anti-commons. So it has to be, things have to be there because there are rewards of a specific type, which is money. And of course, the preconditions for that is that the non-technological infrastructure should be first upgraded. Because in terms of infrastructure, we have the web. I mean, this thing just, you type in my name there, you see me, you see yellow, you see everything there about myself. So this knowledge is free-flowing, so the technological constraints to knowledge have been resolved. But things like literacy, can people actually read these graphs? Can the data that we produce get promoted for use? Is there access? Even if, I mean, the people have been saying data must fall. And the problem of saying data must fall is an interesting one, because it's not data, it's the infrastructure on which that data drives. Not that structure, the price of that must fall. Because data is free, Statistics produces these things free. But it is how you access it I only saw that there's a difference between time and data after I left the office. All the time I could switch on my phone and I would get everything. Now I started saying, why am I not getting this thing? They said, no, you don't have data. I said, what is that now? When those things fall on you, they fall. You know? And then, of course, the issue of basic freedoms. Oh, has it moved? No.
Use the little wheel.
The wheel, oh. Oh, I'm rolling it.
Information is your driver.
But he only drove this morning, but I'm not sure what is happening here. Oh, sorry. Maybe I've spoken for too long without moving it. See, Professor Vince, there was a Portuguese man who was teaching this guy to roof and how to put the nails. So he said he showed him, and then when he came back, he found that the nails are finished. And this Portuguese man comes and says, "Sir, I told you that you put But now you are put. So, how will it work? Will it work? Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Now, we will talk about forms of knowledge. These forms of knowledge, I used to raise this matter, particularly because I had to deal with a situation in the organization about knowledge as semantic form of, irrespective of empirical validity or pragmatic relevance, where they say all science houses history and the money. And that's the kind of knowledge that comes up in social media today. It doesn't matter. They can say anything about you. But knowledge as understanding is this one that is scientific, processed well, and it's outside the space of trivia. And then, of course, as inside competence and authority. If you became a politician who is a statistician, you have this part. Where knowledge is power. You choose what to do on the basis of knowledge. You discriminate on the basis of the knowledge that you have. Next. Now, what is the context of official statistics? Because I think here you are inviting me to talk on official statistics. Now, there are people who are top political authority, and I think this is very relevant. I mean, I presented this in 2002 at StatSA, and these guys thought I had taken this thing that has now been authorized that we can smoke it. Now they thought, oh, what have you smoked? And I said, look, guys, now it's so relevant today because of the contestation that are there in society. So you have political authority, you have the planning authority, you have the mass media. These guys also have Vini there is putting mass media. You have specialist groups like political analysts, economists, and then we have these guys here, statistical authority. And then the guys in treasury who may not give you money to do the work that you want to do, on the instruction of the politicians who may want to see that the statisticians are causing trouble for us. So they know how to control you very nicely. You can have the other authority, but they can take the financing and out of your pocket. Oh yes, I'll give you a promotion. So this is the configuration in official statistics. Next. Now, what informs this system of official statistics? You look at the macro organization of the state. State statistics, you look at government statistics. State statistics are things that are produced for the benefit of the state. Not that government statistics are not, but state and statistics are one. The Statistician-General is a state person, is not a government person. Although in some instances, including in South Africa, they are, the title of the Statistician-General is the Statistician-General of South Africa. So it's not the Statistician-General of government, it's the statistician of the state, private sector, public sector, and everybody. And then, of course, there are international norms. But more recently, and of course, this technological development, knowledge production systems, and information society are now informing the statistical community. At one point, these guys were threatening us so much in this technological development that statisticians were beginning to protest. And I remember at SASA, that was in the Free State in 1996, we went there with Mark Walken, who was my predecessor at StatSA. And one of the president of SASA talked about this technological developments and the demise of statisticians if they don't embrace technology. After all, it is the statisticians who came with the 01, 01, 01 to generate this technological development. And it can't be abandoned. And the use of computers came as a consequence of the advancement in statistics. The nearest you could get to a computer in government will be in finance. And of course, they will tell you now, you can't use this computer. They say, but you know what? So guys, these things that you are talking about because you want to count money. Long before you started counting that money, this thing has been actually devised by mathematicians and statisticians. Therefore, when you come to government, remember that the right to this technology belongs first to the statisticians, even before it belongs to you as financiers. But of course, because they control the money, they thought that they control everything. Another day we'll talk about it. And then, of course, there is the internal perspective to these institutions where there is intellectual competence. When you go to StatSA, you go there, you see these guys. I mean, even the way they walk, you see that that person comes from StatSA, you know. And that's true. Of course, in 2003, they didn't want to associate with StatSA because we are messing things up so badly, and we are fixing. But these days, I mean, guys, of course, you need the technological competence because the product is virtually runs on these networks. And then logistical competence. I mean, these guys still run things called censuses. They go with pieces of paper to knock at the door, and so the logistics are here. Now they think they've modernized, and they use iPads and they set tablets, but they still carry material to the door. They are not allowing the data to move through the internet, and of course, internet-based censuses are things to go. But of course, the constraints that I've spoken about around literacy and all those things still remain major constraints. And then, of course, administrative competence, so that the Auditor General doesn't say you've got qualified audits. You know, qualified audit and then unqualified audit. I used to wonder, why do you say my audit is unqualified? I thought that when it's qualified, it's best. I would say it's unqualified. So it's qualified is bad in audit terms. And then, of course, we have to have political competence. We've got to be savvy dealing with politicians. Now, what are the positive contributions of official statistics? They are basic information society, raising information levels. And now when Risanga presents GDP, society says, oh, hey, you know, this guy. I spent 17 years in the country. I only issued a recession in 2009 at the beginning when Flozi came in. I received him with a recession. My chief, my successor, the man I respect so much, he hardly spends 2 years, he's given a recession and he's likely to give another one. So for every year of his service, he was given 2 recessions. I said, oh, no, I think I should come back to the office. The big issue here is this knowledge base for counter-information, particularly in the fake news era. It's very difficult. The statisticians, particularly official ones, have to deal with this matter. And then, of course, the deficit is you don't know the future, but you model it. Intentional ignorance, for instance, they didn't give them money to go and run poverty studies. And now the government will not know how poor people are, and they become less accountable. I raised this matter with government. I said, no, you can't do this. How do you make yourself accountable if you can't use? And therefore, that ignorance is intentional. So governments are popular for creating intentional ignorance. And then there are legalized ignorance errors. They have definitions that are stupid. This guy is a statistician, official statistician. So we want employment. For employment, you must be 15 to 64 years of age. Once you are below that, you are not employed. So you legalize that error. And then, of course, inherent limits of statistical information. By nature, when you look at it, you are a statistician. But what does this mean? That's what it is. You put that formula and then that's what it is. So the insights are very difficult at times if you are not in the subject matter. So you do your statistics, you calculate the averages and every standard deviation and everything, and say that's what it is. And say, but you know, and you say, what? And then the scientist will say, no, but you don't have insight in this matter. Now, who are the handlers and what is their competence? Their risk profile. You have the blind, the enumerators. These guys send them home, door to door, and they say, no, the Statistician-General has sent us to come and count. And you ask them for what reason, but they said it's good for you. So there is no insight, no understanding, no intervention. That's the blind. Yeah, there is a discreet battler who knows, but no command. Insight, understanding, the battler at Buckingham Palace, he saw everything, he knew everything. He couldn't say anything or intervene, but he wrote a lot about what happened in the Buckingham Palace once the battler was no longer there. He's a discreet. The anonymous. I mean, the guys in statistics are mesmerized by data and the shapes that this data takes by modal and so on, and normal distribution by modal, what have you. There is a lot of understanding, but there is no, they don't have insight unless the subject matter specialist comes and they discuss this. And then you see the statisticians brightening up. And of course, they can't intervene, because once they intervene, the problem is if their interventions don't work, they'll change the numbers. There's that risk. Then, of course, there is the mechanical politician. They have insight. They have the power to intervene, but overall understanding. Ask me, I tell you. I was having a discussion with now the Minister Mantashe. He was the chair of the ANC there. And we are talking about the performance of blacks in education. And I was saying they are performing badly. And they are not. Another one was with Bladen Zimande when he was Minister of Education. And I was saying, no. And the issue was about absolute numbers and proportions. And now, man, when it came to absolute numbers, it was fine. Even if when I said, yes, there are more students, 79, 80, only 5,000 blacks would graduate. Now you have who told them that I'm talking about them?
You're accessing remotely. Please mute your microphone. You're coming through on the system.
We have had everything. You should have left them. You should have had evidence. So there we were. And I said, yes, of course. You have 100,000 now enrolling and graduating. So it's big numbers. They said, so why do you say, I said, yes, there are more, but their performance is poorer than when they were 5,000. Because in the 5,000, almost all of them would pass. Now you have 100,000, but the progression ratio shows that you lose. So if you are filling a dam, that dam will never get full. It will be empty. Now, trying to explain that was very difficult. And that's where this understanding is very important. That statisticians always have to talk to them so that they understand, because they have a lot of insight. They say, that community is poor. I know it. When you bring the facts, they say, no, see, it's facts of yours. I know it. You don't live there. I know. So anecdote is part of their absence of understanding. And the participatory scientists who has insight and understanding but no intervention. And where we want to move towards is really where we have an interventionist process, so that insight, understanding, and intervention come together where knowledge is power. That's what SAS says. Knowledge is power. Next. Now, so that these guys that they say don't get contaminated by the politicians, here is the way you. Oh, here you are saying you are sharing screen. Now it's sitting on the social division of knowledge from an official perspective. Now, the statisticians work on purpose. And the purpose is very political. But the statisticians are not political. It's about understanding poverty and solving it. And the politicians want to solve that. So they say, go and measure that thing, because I want to solve it. Of course, they didn't say to Magwas, go and measure it, and then they don't give you money to go and measure it subsequently. That doesn't put you in good space at all. But they do. Say go and don't go, because they will hold the money back. But the Statistician-General, once he has approved a serious official, the politician has no power to stop that series. But of course, they have the power because they can withdraw the money, as they have done with the poverty measures for 2018. I don't think they know. I'm sure it's tricks in the treasury and all these other boys that really behave very badly on things that are national importance. So we start with utilization in mind as official statisticians. And then you go and research this thing to find and create science around it. So that you draw the sample, you do it scientifically, you process it, you document it, and you distribute. But you guys, Yoko, you start with research and science, ask the question, why is the sky blue? You say, it's blue, of course. You are inspired by that. And then you process, you document, you distribute, and then you utilize, you see. It's opposite. And now, there has to be division of knowledge from an academic perspective, from a division of this. But at the same time, this enterprise must be intellectual. Next. So how did we do it in StatSA to be such a magnificent institution? You see, in 1994, we had this kind of problem. The products were fragmented, were poor quality, access was concealed. I mean, there was so much in the organization. There was very destructive competition. I mean, Professor Stoker was an authority on his own. Professor Sadi was an authority on his own. Professor Sims was an authority on his own. So the area was very, very contested. By the time 1994 came, those elements that were authority on their own were very difficult to, there was always skepticism and suspicion, and they became their own authority. I mean, when the HSRC started dismembering itself, there was StatCom that was established, and I sent my staff there to StatCom to go and study there. And it was so fragmented. It wasn't that great. And then, of course, there were spoilers and who say it cannot be done, the conservative. So when we got into StatSA with Mark, we found a very difficult, in 1995, environment. So at the product level, things were, GDP was releasing the quarter GDP today, Risenga would have released it next year, this time. It took a whole year. CPI, I mean, we had to get the first quarter in the next 1 month of the last quarter. So how did we do this? Now, in 1995, we had to revitalize the system. We had to reclaim influence and territory. And one of the things was to get Professor Stoker to work with us. Every census, he had to come and evaluate it. He said, Prof, come. I went to see him, Professor Stoker, my God, may his soul rest in peace. He was saying, but you know, as long as my brain is working and good. Now, he was fixing a computer. I said, Prof, what happened? He said, no, I removed the yes, and so he was trying to fix it. I said, but that's done by children. I guess when you get that old, you can be child. So Prof. Stoker was absolutely very good at making sure that we came to this space here. Absolutely fantastic. Now, he learned us. He said, I will learn you. I learn you. I teach you. So here at the reclamation level, we rigorously increased the product. We gradually improved the quality and, of course, messed up a few things here, including the CPI in 2003. we worked on collaborative support with the auditor, ensure that our audits are not qualified. Still inside, the issues were still what I can produce, and I'm sure even now that's kind of thing still for myself, for my section. And then, of course, the support for statistics was uncoordinated. But since 2005, where we were actually self-sustaining, there was self-liquidating catalytic growth, so that when I found myself unnecessary. I spent most of the time outside the country, and I knew that I was no longer necessary in StatSA, because it was now a high-quality, high-caliber organization, so I could self-liquidate catalytically. Unlike here, self-liquidating decadent road where you actually die. Here, I flourished, but the organization was flourishing. So you can still invite me and say, come and talk to us. So we focused on quality through people. We started training programs that were very fantastic. We worked on collaborative support, and what are the needs of suppliers. And that's why the suppliers, you see, user delight when they receive these numbers, even if it's 3.2 negative growth. They are delighted to see that it's high quality, but they are depressed because you can't live in an economy where it's shrinking by 3.2, but you can't blame it on StatSA. They've done their work. Quality. User delight. I say, what? Wow, it came from StatSA, you didn't it? And then, of course, we have got coordinated support. Of course, they didn't bring money here for poverty numbers. So what informed change? These are the things I think I'll just domestic and so on. Let's skip. Oh, yes, this knowledge production system is a very, very important one, because it's vexing every other statistics production system, because it's very difficult. At times, people want you to outsource technology, when statistics and technology are sitting one on top of the other. Like, you can't separate it. It's a scrambled egg. You can't turn it into a new egg. So what are the priority areas? Grow the economy, create jobs. Those are the things that measure deaths and so on. That's what statistics do. Next. And then what are the signals? The signals are this individual series, 200 and how many? 233 a year, or is it something like that? 260 a year. So every day, StatSA is a publishing house, it's a media house, it's a television and radio house. That's how we put it. That's how we elevated it to the level. And then, of course, it's undergirded by business address and spatial frames, which Mokoen said, everybody must have an address so that we can go and vote. I don't know how the local government is going to function here, because this spatial frame is not there yet. Not there. And of course, when we talk to departments, we've gone through this thing. It's a headache. Everyone says, oh, I have my 50 million here. The other one says 10 million. Look here. We are not organizing money for Stokvel to bury a pauper. This is a national priority. We need to finance addresses so that they are identifiers. Once those identifiers are understood and are there, then you don't have to go with an iPad door to door, because you know who is there, and then you can run through an internet with a geographic location for counting the population. And that reduces the logistics and the cost of collection of information. And next. Now, the question that I was asking is, do these people use the data? And here I'm just demonstrating what the information is about. I just run it, fit, must do it. Oh, no, yes, stop that. Now, the use and the 4 dimensions of poverty, and here I want to look at the 4 dimensions of poverty, particularly multidimensional poverty, but around the plight of the youth. Because we said we look at what informs, how the system is organized, what it produces, and now to what use can you put it. And then, of course, each one of those has all these dimensions here. Yoko, when these people were saying peace must fall, and then the politicians came there and talked about, yes, they joined, they divided the movement of students of peace must fall. And instead, they came and talked about lightning hitting and so on during the local government elections. Not about what the students were talking about education. Now, you see that this juncture in society that here students, they've created a movement, this must fall. Then the politicians, looking at the votes, they come there and destroy the movement. And they deliver nothing to this. Instead, they came and campaigned on these things. Now, this is youth multidimensional poverty index. Educational attainment, and all these are the population per indicator. But when you aggregate this into the 4 dimensions, you realize that, yes, the next one gives us, yes, youth poverty. Yes, I don't know this one. I don't know the first one. Total youth age 15 to 24, 9.4 million. Total youth who are MPI poor, multidimensional poor of 3.1 million, 33%, and the intensity of poverty is 50%. So when we look at percentage poor, is how many in 100 are poor. But when we look at intensity, is that depth. And that is driven by a different set of things. And let's go next set. Now, here, educational attainment is what resolves youth poverty. And if their poverty, you see, it's driven by lack of education, not in education and in employment, that accounts for 50% of what drives the youth to be poor. And then, of course, there's nobody employed. These things like electricity that the politicians are campaigning on have no impact whatsoever. Not that they are not necessary, but they have no impact whatsoever. So the political message and what we are fighting for in the politics are irrelevant altogether to what the youth need to have to move forward. But I'm telling you, putting this message across, I failed. I don't think I'm a good communicator. Next slide. Now, yes. Now, what are financial support to households? I'm going to this fees must fall movement. And these are the financial support for households as decided on the missing middle and how many children per household are there at university. You see there with persons staying on campus, 43% at university, and so on and so on. And almost 671,000 at university. Of course, there are 1 million. There are other factors that are the UNISA effect in all this. And then total number in private universities, and the total there is average student per household is 1.4. Now, the missing middle of this debate that I don't understand, and I'll take time, I think, to understand it because my brain tries to work on facts, is when we say that we will support those who are below what, 300,000 or whatever amount of money it is. But on average, and what we have missed as policymakers, is that education has a cluster effect. When my brother goes to university, I want to go. When my brother graduated in 1971, I was peeping through the window there in the Soto at Roma, and I said, I'll be there. And indeed, I was there. And in between the two of them and everybody else in between went there. It has a clustering effect. So is this support one student per household? If it is one student per household, this figure has not been used. And then, of course, there are outliers. This is an average figure, the outliers. So when we opened universities this year, the fees must fall was about this part that has this clustering effect. And policy didn't look at that. And then 3 months of school, of university education got lost. Now you wonder who was sitting on this policy. I made a submission to the commission on fees that this nitpicking on saying fees for the poor, fees for the rich is missing the point. In South Africa, we don't have anywhere where we meet as all races. As young people coming from Mamelodi, and we stay there. As a working person, I stay and we fight at work, we fight over jobs and all these kinds of things. We are polarized. The only space where you find a degree of integration that is very good is at university. And these guys are the elite, they are the future. Now, if you separate them by poor or rich, you are destroying an asset for national building. It's not the rugby match or the World Cup that can make nation building. It is 4 years of these guys sitting there studying. And you ask them the question, tell us the future of South Africa as a mandatory program, year in, year out. They should engage that. When they live there, South Africa will be different. Now we are nitpicking and saying, no, for the poor, at least, oh my God. Next. Now, I mean, these are the costs of university next one. These are the tuition fees, KwaZulu-Natal, Pretoria University, and affordability. I've so spoken about this thing, and yes, I mean, let's just go through this. Is just, sorry, let's go back a bit. This is the slide that is the pie chart.
The pie chart.
No, the pie chart. Households with persons enrolled, more than 600,000, you see. And this gives you an idea of that it's 20% only that they can afford. But you don't need to use affordability as a means, but you need to understand how do we bring the society together and at what point should we? And what lends itself to that situation? It's at university, 4 years. Next. Now, the problem with education outcomes for 15 to 34, very interesting here, with less than metric, you see, 44% unemployed. For that, these are the measurements that I think the 2019 quarter will give you the same picture, if not worse. That's for absorption rate, labor force participation, and unemployment rate. That means if you have less than metric, but if you are a graduate, your unemployment is. But other tertiary, which is your technicals, what are they producing? You have to start asking. If you get as high unemployment as the person in less than metric, what are these tertiary things doing? Of course, we matched these universities, these technicals, and the nurses now speak English to wounds instead of. These are problems. And these are real problems that must engage politically and technically. And when you don't have technical analysts in the system of government, you continuously get this and you don't get a correction. The next. Progression ratios. Yes. No, just stop it. No, let's go back to problem. Back to before progress. Yes, yeah, that one. The progression ratios give us the proportion of people who have completed a particular level and proceeded to complete to be a graduate. And here it's number, it's time. And it's time across from the early, we measure everybody we see in society and see how those progression ratios go. So if the proportion, if the graph goes up that way, you know what it means. If it goes this way, it means you know what it means. And if it goes this way, you also know what it means. And this is where Blade and I didn't understand. He's Minister of Higher Education. You need to be schooled on these things so that he can actually deal with them decisively. He must be empowered to deal with them. And we have to take time to say what this thing means. And it means the politeness with which we deal with facts has to be thrown out of the window. But the respect must remain on the facts. Yes. Now, see. It's by race group. You are statisticians, you know what this class means. So when I said post-1980, post this period here, these guys did worse than here. Because you can see this gradient here, they are passing. And they are not passing because they stay in toilets and do all these things and so on. And they don't have food. And Nestus doesn't work that well. They give you another person 14 million rand. You wonder what my systems were introduced there. Oh, by the way, I had a similar problem with the systems, you know. I mean, the thing is even embarrassing to say how I found out that I almost messed government big time. So 1996, we have just run a census, and then we've had the problems, headaches of printing checks, delivering them by car, moving cash, everything. It was the time of Gupta leaks. I think those guys would have sorted that problem long time ago. But now, here we are. We have printed these checks. It's been round the clock work. And I received them from that place where they print checks. Yes, what is it called? You've forgotten it now. Yeah, no, it was something there, Pesal, somewhere. So I said, man, I want to feel how these checks smell, how they feel. I want to touch the text. I'm just excited by this thing because I put one check. I said, oh, this amount doesn't look right. But it doesn't bring it there. I dig around and find that, oh, no, there's two amounts. No. There are people striking. They want their money, and these checks, people have said we are going to collect the checks. The amounts are wrong. 36 million overspent, and Manuel didn't play at that time. So I said, no, these checks go back. We are not delivering these checks. It was the guys in Treasury had a Christmas party. I told Mark, I said, we have a problem. He called this man at the Christmas party. He said, man, you know what? You'll be sorry next year if you don't attend to this problem and you'll have forgotten about your Christmas party. You better get off from that Christmas party. Guy at Treasury, they had to come. Same night, we corrected the program. At midnight, I was at Treasury, at that place. Bureau Vita, yeah, it's called Bureau Vita, yeah. Saying, I want to see the amount here for this person and that one before I punch this button. And then once I was satisfied, I punched and said, go. And then we had to collect all the other checks that had gone back in black bags. I mean, that's rudimentary. I mean, look, if I didn't do that, I mean, it was not in the system. That check was not in the system. It was just a check to say, I want to smell this check. And next. So I can't remember why I talked about these checks, but that's the problem that we have. Next. Now GDP. This man who is likely to give you another bad news in the next quarter, given what is happening. 3.2 shrinkage of the first quarter. Zero growth year on year. So you compare first quarter 2018 to first quarter. And this is bad news, and he doesn't stop giving bad news. Increased unemployment as well. I think the president, if he hears me, the way I talk, he might call me back and say, come please, and solve this problem. It's tough. The country is in a mess. And I don't think people understand this very well, and that mess is deepening. Next. Okay. This is the first quarter, 2019. And here he gave us a recession. Yes, here. And small growth here. And the NDP says we earned 5%. Well, they're not going to get 5% here. It's wishful thinking. It's real wishful thinking. We really have to be realistic about the situation. And I'm very happy that organization gives you the reality. And the Statistician-General is very clear. Now, this is the real sector. All of it heading south. Mining more in the south than above. Secondary industries, almost in comatose, just a little bit above zero, but most of the time they might be above zero, but certainly so close. And the agriculture, tertiary industries and agriculture. It's primary industries here. tertiary industries just, and things are not looking good. And this is the real economy. Yes, the financials and all these other things might be blooming, but if you have it wrong here, you have a serious problem. Next. And of course, this is how the shrinkage agriculture, of course, it contributes very little in the economy, but when it goes 13%, it means the price of food will go up, and inflation is likely to go up, and so on and so on. And of course, these guys want to go to that reserve bank and say, no, stop doing this inflation targeting. We want it to be government. There's no need to make a reserve bank government or whatever. You give it a mandate. It didn't on its own say it wants inflation targeting. Government said, go and do inflation targeting. The financial round was not the choice of the reserve bank. Government said, we want a parallel currency system. So I don't understand why we are so infatuated with where it belongs. You give it a mandate. So our politics are absolutely floating in space that doesn't make sense. Next. Oh, this is the university thing. Yes, it should have been that side. It was that technical error, technical recession. Employment. Let's move faster. That's the unemployment, like matric, and you know that story. Expanded official. Yes, no, let's go on to this one. And this graph gives you all age groups. And this top one here is those who are 25 years. Right, in this 25 years, this is truncated. This dot, it must be up here. I remember. I know it. Because if you were to connect this dot here, you will see how the unemployment among those who are 25 across time has been. And then here is every 5-year age group. And you can plot them, connect them, and see how it is impacting on different age groups. But because that one didn't work. Yeah, you see? I told you that I knew where it was. It was somewhere. When you connect these dots, you can see almost a straight line, linear growth in unemployment for those who are 25, and then you can look at those who are at those points, and then those of us who are now 60 and above. So, next. Now, the tragedy of this is this. And you can look at 2018 and 2019 first quarter, you'll find the same thing. Here we are looking at this, the inner one is 2008. And here is 2018. This outer one is 2018. You don't have anything here. You can't see 2018 because you only have the inner one. This is an age pyramid, or rather a pyramid of those who are this particular age and get employed as they progress. Now, you can see that these kids can't have any hope. There is no increase in the number of the employed in the age group 15-24. In fact, they are losing their share of employment compared to where they were in 2008. You can see that there's nothing. Here, we are barely keeping the number of jobs, the share of jobs that go to this group 25-34. We are increasing this side. Here, yes, there has been an increase. You can be sure if you are 35-44, you are likely to be employed. 45, but you also are likely to be unemployed because this is increasing aggressively here. Of course, when you are here now, like myself, and this side, unemployed. So the future is bleak. So the dream about the demographic dividend for South Africa is impossible. And if you think you can solve it, Stalin asked him, Stalin, what did you do? I mean, what happened to the peasants? You want these guys to produce the food. He said, I've solved the problem. He said, Stalin, what did you do? He had killed everybody. that solve the problem of the peasants. We don't have that kind of solution. You can't do that. And I don't, for the life of me, see how 1 million jobs or whatever it is, or unemployment getting reduced in terms of Dr. H. Makashule, saying that the unemployment rate will be 14% in 5 years, unless he changes the definition like Margaret Thatcher did of unemployment, of employment. Yes, so you can do that, and then you get to the move. That's 2019, you can see the same picture, nothing changed. 2018, 2019. So the figures are current. We don't say it happened sometime back. We are saying, here is the crisis. Next. Is it used? I don't think so. You see, for us to achieve what we want to achieve, which is this demographic dividend, we've got to increase labor productivity, and it must be on the up. We must improve on the absorption rate. That is, the number of people of the working age should be improved, and the terms of trade must improve. Now, if you look at the data that this organization called Statistics produces, it doesn't measure labor productivity. NEP does. National Productivity, NP. Yeah, not NPA, NP, National Productivity Institute, NPI. But all these are moving southwards. Therefore, this is not possible. And the current data shows all this will continue to move southward. And next. Oh, am I done?
Yes.
I was only starting. So thank you very much.
As Pali said, he needs to be put in an Uber, but 2 questions.
They can Uber the questions.
Thank you, Doc, for the interesting presentation. I just have one question. Seeing that the politicians are the decision makers, is there any effort to educate them in terms of how to consume statistics?
Okay, another question. I think there were 2. They are, so that I can cobble the answer in the meantime.
I'll help you with that one, the politician.
Yeah. No. I think we should continue. I mean, what I started was to really dance on the serrated side of the saw, to raise the profile of statistics and talk to them as I do, and I continue to. What has that triggered is that politicians are opening up to my successor to hear what these numbers actually say. But advocacy outside that environment, where he talks to them, not privately, but he publishes the numbers openly, and everybody who wants clarity will invite the Statistician-General, which is fine. But we, as community of practice, have to continue aggressively to look at the facts and say what they are, including when we go into the risk of legalized errors, where data is needed and it's possible to collect it, but it is not collected, because those are not legalized errors, intentional ignorance. We need to fight that intentional ignorance and not allow ourselves to be bombarded with conjectures, but we need solid data. So I'm very, very happy about the progress that is being made, but mine is an activist, a data activist. And to bring the evidence to the fore all the time. You see, if I Uber myself, the Chinese in 2012, I released the census data, 2011. There were 7,000 ANC representatives in Mangaung. It was all yellow. I was in my yellow suit. They were all dressed in yellow. I appeared like I felt like a major ward to address such an audience, big audience. And what I was presenting was the census results. And of course, the graphics and everything was fantastic. And that was it. The Chinese invited us. There were 7 of us from outside China. And they were going to look at the implications, economic implications on the demography of China in the light of the 2010 census that they had run. So January I was in China and we were discussing this. Out of that discussion, 3 resolutions that were going to the Politburo emerged. 1, relax the bedroom, allow the Chinese to have 2 children, not 1. Increase the supply of probably Viagra and like, I don't know, but because once people have gone into a particular age, it's very difficult to reverse it. But the Chinese 1 child was a very difficult thing. You could see there were children who had 1 child at home, and they were not happy. He said, "Oh, child, you know." My age is crying. I say, man, go and make your own. So they relaxed. They said they are going to relax the bedroom. The second was that they will grow through domestic consumption because they relaxed the bedroom. The third was they will continue with export-oriented growth. And when Trump, 8 years later, wants to go on to trade wars, the Chinese had long solved that because they have the market, which is the Chinese. The people who are going to suffer ourselves in that trade war. So I suppose these are the geostatistical politics, and they can be very interesting. Thank you very much.